Okay, what I'm going to show you today is how to take out the waste from stopped housing. So I've got two stopped housings here. I'm going to show you two different ways. I'm going to show you the usual way, which is basically working with a mortise chisel and taking an area out at the top of your stopped housing joint. I'm then also going to show you how to go about doing it with a Forstner bit on this one. So mortise chisel in this one, Forstner bit in this one. The Forstner bit should be a lot quicker. I'll take this over to the drill and basically drill this out and do it on the pillar drill. So I'll take you over there at some point. I'm going to talk about this one first. The first thing I'm going to be using for this is I've got a mortise chisel. All right, and on that mortise chisel, I have marked halfway down on the wood. So I've got a bit of tape, essentially marking, I think it's about 8mm. So I've got 8mm marked there with a little bit of tape. What that allows me to do is it allows me to gauge how far down I'm going. Okay. Right, okay, that is us. I've managed to get this pretty much clear, so I've got that fairly square. It's down to the right size here. It's the same here. I'm having a little bit of trouble because of this knot here to clear this part here, so I can start working on that with the bevel edge chisel in the other direction when I've managed to clear out the rest of the waste here. So what I want to do is, now I'm going to turn this and you can see how I'm going about sawing this. So I'm going to get the saw into it and I'll probably time lapse that as well. Okay, now that I've got this basically cut down, so what I've done here is I've sawn down to the right height. So I've used this as my gauge at the back here, and that also allows all the dust and things like that to gather in there. So it stops your saw from getting clogged up. So I've got this sawn down to the right height all the way down this on both sides. Without doing that, I'm going to end up breaking the wood. So I need to make sure it's separated on both sides and the waste's in the middle. If I was to, for example, not saw down far enough or essentially forgot to saw and started trying to chisel this part out, then I'm going to end up breaking my wood and smashing it to bits. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to work with the chisel. I'm just going to work in here and I'm going to clear this area out. And once again, I'll put that in a little bit of a time lapse just so it makes it a little bit quicker for you to watch. Nothing ever goes smoothly, so what I've got here is I've got this bit, these bits of wood starting to cling onto the sides, so I've actually still got them attached. So what that means is if I'm cutting something like a housing joint, that means that I haven't sawn down on the edges far enough. So I need to make sure that I'm sawing down a little bit more on these, and that's going to allow this to stop gripping at the sides. I've also got this little bit of a knot here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the saw across that. I'm going to take a couple of cuts through that to weaken that, and then I'm going to knock that out with a bevel edge chisel, and that should allow me to get everything nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a hand router all the way up the length of it so I can get it flat and even all the way across. Okay. Right, okay, that's it cleared. So not my finest work, but it is what it is. The little knot here really caused a few problems. That is something that won't be a problem with the other technique that I'm going to show you with the Forstner bit. Also had a few problems with the right height. All right, so the level that I'd set myself, the depth of the cut here was a problem as well. I constantly had to go back in with the saw and just make sure I was down to the right side. Yes, that's maybe my fault, but also that is something that's quite easily done as you're going along, where you just don't quite get the level that you're looking for. So the Forstner bit will sort that out, and hopefully that will be a better technique for you to kind of see. All right. Okay, now we're over at the drill. We're going to use the Forstner bit to cut this out. I've got a red line down here. It's good practice to put a line down the centre of your joint here. That will just allow you to centre the point on it and basically drill this out. The Forstner bit has been obviously locked into the jaws, but it's been set up with a depth stop. So it's not going to go past this level here. So the level at the front is going to be the level it stops at. And I'm just going to run the Forstner bit probably back to front to then finish here and trim out the most of the waste. I'm going to try and get the holes to overlap as best I can. Sometimes that's not possible. It's also a good way to do it would be to actually take this and spend a little bit of time getting everything lined up for your first hole and getting it so that it's in the right place with a little notch with the point of the Forstner bit. Okay, so I'm going to change the angle that you're viewing this at. Okay, now I've got most of the material out. You can see I've just got these little triangles here that are going to need to come out. I've not quite broken through at the front, but that's not a big deal. I've got these two back corners here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back corners here out with the mortise chisel. So I'm going to do that with the mortise chisel. And I'm actually going to use the bevel edge chisel just to trim in. So I'm going to trim the tip off, then I'm going to work my way back out. And the same again here. All right, the bevel edge chisel just works that a little bit better for getting a nice sharp edge. So I'm going to use that. Okay, so here we go. So that is all the waste taken out. You can see that there's a few downsides to using something like the Forstner bit. Forstner bit obviously leaves a small hole, so that is obviously going to be a blemish, but then you're going to be putting a piece in here, so it's going to completely hide that. You can see how little time it took me to get all that waste out. You can also see I've got a fairly good line. I've still to clean that up, so I could clean that up a little bit more if I wanted to. This level as well is very consistent as well, so I don't really have a problem with this level being maybe higher or lower than the front level. So that should be a really nice uniform level all the way through. If I wanted to, I could go in there with a hand router, but to be honest, I don't really need to. And everything is looking reasonably good compared to the other kind of traditional method of doing it. The Forstner bit does help you out. The only problems with the Forstner bit, as I say, you've got the holes, but then also if you've got a width of joint that you're needing, say for example it was a 22 width joint and you only had a 20mm Forstner, you're obviously going to have a bit of a problem there. It's always best to have a Forstner that goes all the way to the edge, because then that means that you can get in here and trim it off easily. Right, so I hope that helps, and I look forward to hopefully some more videos from us. All right, cheerio.